Hey guys, welcome back to the Journals Workshop. On today's video, it's actually going to be a continuation of my previous one in which we were taking and building this loft kind of slash mezzanine. Well, today we're going to be adding subfloor, framing, and sprucing it up on the outside. So we're going to be taking it from this to this.
They say friendship isn't about who stands by you when things are easy, but rather it's about who shows up when there's work to be done. And when it comes to a project like this, I'm reminded of another one of my favorite quotes. Work smarter, not harder. Sometimes smarter means having the right tools, but more often than not, it means having the right person by your side. Big thanks here to Nathaniel for helping out on those full sheets of OSB, because let's be honest, if I was doing this by myself, this project would have taken about 4 times longer. Now, as you guys know, and as I progress in this build, it's really becoming more of a passion project. If you've seen any of my other videos, you guys already know that I grew up on a farm just outside of Casson, Minnesota. Outdoor life wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life. I'm from one of those families where once breakfast was over, you were locked outside until dinner. And let me tell you, all the things that a young boy should and should not do, well, I did all of those. Now, what started as a simple bunkhouse project has taken on a whole new identity. It's slowly transforming into this kind of treehouse flavored bunk bed slash secret room creation. Somehow, it's become something more than just a build. It's a journey back to that young Joshua running wild on the farm. It's funny, isn't it? How a project like this can spark a feeling, tug on a memory, and ultimately make us feel like a kid again. Maybe that's the magic of building with our hands. It brings the past and the present together in ways that both nostalgic and exciting. As it relates to this project specifically, and a few things coming down the road, one of the first challenges is figuring out a creative way to access the treehouse. Right now, I'm using a standard stepladder, which is fine for now, but I want to create something more creative and permanent as I move forward. If you've seen my videos on the Tote tower shelf system, you'll remember that I built a loft ladder for that project. I want to do something similar here, but with a twist. It also needs to be somewhat hidden and retractable. My idea? Well, a fusion of a ship's ladder and an attic ladder. So I'm envisioning using 2x6 nominal lumber and pairing it with attic ladder hinges to create something that's not only functional but also aesthetically pleasing. The goal is to design a ladder that can be retracted and stored with ease, yet still feel like part of the treehouse itself. The build is definitely coming in a future video, so stay tuned for that.
All right, well, hey, at this point, we've got the subflooring in. Now, for a lot of you that are used to doing subfloors, you know that oftentimes that they're glued and oftentimes that you use like a ring shank nail. One of the things that I chose to do is because I'm thinking this is not something we're going to be walking on like a regular house, if you will. The idea of squeaking isn't something that bothers me, so I did not glue it. I also utilized a screw because keep in mind when you get these ring shank nails, they don't actually pull the board all the way down, which is if you're going to do it that way, just make sure you're putting or at least applying all of your pressure over top of it so that you seat the board or at least the subfloor down to the underlying joist structure so that you get a good compressive seal, as opposed to, for me, I just use screws, so that actually pulled it down, and I think that's all that I wanted. For me, I was thinking long term in a sense of if I ever want to remove this or if I need to shift something, I can remove these pretty easily, but once you have them glued, you're pretty much locked in. There's not a lot of change that's going to happen unless you just got rid of all of that. So again, the subfloor is down. Again, this is 3/4 inch OSB, tongue and groove, and got the center structure out there as far as the opening is concerned. A couple of notices is one, it's pretty dark down there. So obviously I'll be sprucing that up with lighting. The next thing that I'm going to actually trial is going to be installing kind of the framework, and man, oh man, is that going to be interesting because this actually veers out a little bit, so I just want to make sure I'm not hitting this. So the next part that we're going to actually be doing, and I'll kind of let you guys take a look. So if we move the camera, you'll actually notice that from my framing perspective, and this is one of the things I've been kind of, I've been working towards, is like, which way do I want to do this? You see this edge here. I'm wanting to keep my framework straight up from this line, so we have clean lines, as opposed to having a framing that's set back. I think that's going to be better. The problem is I'm going to have some little challenges with some of my structure here, but nonetheless, this will be fairly flat. So my hope is to now put on the framing. It's going to be a loose base framing. It's not doing anything other than going to be supporting the boards. So I'm not going to be following traditional rules, if you will, of so many inches on center. In fact, I'll probably just figure out, my biggest thing now is to figure out if I want to do the window here. Because again, I'm thinking about doing like a general store type sign slash somehow fun way of making it the general's workshop, right? There's a play on words there. I think that's important because I want to have it where it can flip up and out. However, this is going to be here, so I'm not sure specifically how I'm going to do that, but we're about to find out. Let's go. So another advantage of having a setup like the portable and removable miter saw that's battery operated is the simple fact that I can take this off, and the amount of cuts I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just bring this straight up top. Now before I move it, I always want to take the battery out. Just going to bring it right up top there with us so I can get me some square cuts, yo. Now, I don't have, this afternoon, or at least this time, I don't have the luxury of having someone with me. So from that perspective, I'm going to be doing all the cutting myself. And earlier today, you know, having Nate here, who you saw kind of help me get those things lifted up, man, it just helps when you don't have to be going up and down the ladder a billion times, and it feels like a billion. So this way I could just stay up there. Hopefully I'll get all the wood up there, and then let's start getting that framing in. I'm super excited to get that framing in for you guys, but also for me. Hey, as we're going along here, guys, don't forget, it would just mean a lot to me if you guys would consider hitting that like button and consider kind of sharing, you know, those sort of things. And I'm going to be doing this for a long time now. I truly do love it. I love connecting with you guys, and I truly especially love it when you guys comment, because it feels like a little bit of connection, that sort of thing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start getting the wood up there, and then we're going to start framing this in.
Now, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes woodworking feels a bit overwhelming. Sometimes I actually find myself just sitting and just staring at the space that I want to work on. There are so many moving parts that sometimes it's actually hard to figure out where to start. My brother calls this well-intended procrastination. And you know what? He's not wrong. But here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. I often spend a lot of time thinking, rethinking, and refining my plans. The blueprints for this loft build, well, it's already on draft number 5. Honestly, for every hour you see me working on these videos, I probably spend about 20 hours off camera brainstorming and planning. And you know what? I love every second of it. Now, on the off chance that you might be struggling with this, or might be asking for a friend, here's your brother, sister's dog, second cousin's hairstylist struggle with this. Well, let me share something with you that helped me. It's actually called the Rule of 3. The Rule of 3 is a simple principle. You commit to spending just 3 minutes moving the ball forward on whatever project or task you're working on. Whether it's a woodworking project, an outdoor job, or something entirely different, you tell yourself, I'm only committing to 3 minutes. And here's the funny thing, those 3 minutes almost always turn into something longer. It's strange how we resist the first step. We can sit and stare at a project for what feels like forever, avoiding even the smallest amount of progress. But the moment we take action just a little bit, you build momentum. Personally, I've found my 3 minutes often turn into half an hour, sometimes an hour or more. There's something psychological at play here, and while I don't completely understand it, I do know that it works for me. Anyone else feeling challenged by just starting something? With that said, I wouldn't say that I struggle with a lack of energy or desire, but I do sometimes operate under what I like to call perfectionist paralysis. And while it can slow me down, it has also saved me from building something that I wouldn't truly enjoy. It's a double-edged sword for sure. On one hand, it can delay a project, but on the other, it helps me refine my ideas and avoid rushing into something that I might regret. All right, confession time is over. Let's get back to the build.
As long as that front edge is flush, that's all that I'm really worrying about. In fact, I'm looking for opportunities to use my twisted material, because honestly, it's just the face. And again, it's not supporting much weight whatsoever other than just kind of the siding. So from that perspective, this is a great opportunity to use what otherwise would be not used material. And of course, this one and this one I had a very bowed piece, and that's a perfect opportunity to have it crowning in the center, because you can always cinch it down to get it to be flat. So again, another way to get rid of some of that wood that you wouldn't otherwise use. That's perfect, that's great. All right, you guys, so as you can kind of see from some of the previous videos as well as this, I have these old cedar planks, which they were selling at half price at one of the local lumber yards. And I was thinking about utilizing that, but I really do think that I'd like to continue this rustic board that I've got, that honestly I've been harvesting from my fence line here at my property. And so I think I'm going to keep with that. And here's the thing, I was oftentimes wondering, like, would it be too much having the board down there and the board up here? But here's the reason why I actually think it's going to work is, one, once I get my awning up to go across there, the awning will also carry the rustic corrugated tin that I'm using as kind of like my pseudo kind of wainscoting, if you will. And I think that's going to provide enough separation, right? So it'll go wainscoting, the corrugated tin, the rustic wood, corrugated tin, and then the rustic wood, as opposed to just the whole wall being rustic wood, which would probably work in and of itself or by itself. But I think the other thing that I was trying to wrap my head around is, one, right, you see these holes, these gaps, right? Those need to be filled. And I was thinking to myself, how do I do that without spending a lot of money? Because again, none of what I'm going to be doing is structural. It is all aesthetics. And I know some of you, cringe when I say that, but the reality is my shop, that's a huge sliver. My shop, I totally love the aesthetics of it. So with that being said, I was going through, I have all this OSB that I used for previous projects. I was going to try to put that up there. I just didn't want the additional weight, not that it couldn't support it, but it's time, it's money, etc., etc. So here's what I came up with. I actually came up with the idea of utilizing just this brown tarp, right? I just had bought a couple of them. I should have enough to kind of cut them. It'll work out perfect. So for you guys, you could probably see this gapping, right? And you can see that there's a bunch of light behind it. But if I'm just going to take this tarp, I'll staple it, and then once this board goes up, those gaps, right? Those gaps just go black, go dark, and that's what you want. I didn't want, like, I was going to use red rosin paper, or is it rosin paper that we'll use, but this again, color is a deep brown, which will go with it, and it'll just cover up all of these marks. So then when the lighting's on up here and you walk in, you don't have a bunch of light shining through those cracks. So I'm going to take all this down. I'm going to start by putting the tarp up all around here, and then we'll get started with adding in the board, and ultimately we'll also be adding the awning, which that I'm super excited for as well. So with that being said, let's get started.
The tarp It's going to serve multiple purposes. First, it's fastened in place with fender washers and secured using these 3/4 inch black phosphate screws. I could have gone with just a rustic board, but the tarp does more than just look good. It helps block light and it provides a seal. Now, if you've seen my other woodworking projects, you know that my man cave area tends to collect a layer of dust. And this is just something that I've had to kind of deal with. This tarp is my way of tackling that issue. By sealing things up properly, I'm hoping to significantly reduce the amount of sawdust and debris that settles into this area. On the far side, near the TV, I'm planning on storing 5-gallon buckets up top. I've come up with a pulley system that attaches securely to the system and uses custom slings for hoisting those buckets up and down. It's a great solution for keeping an area organized and functional. Plus, this system doesn't and isn't just limited to buckets. I can use it to haul items like suitcases up, etc., etc. That said, the loft isn't super high, so most of the time I'm probably just manhandling the weight. Still, it's nice to have a pulley system in place if I ever need it. As for the space near the mini split, I'm leaning towards a twin bed or a full-size bed, to be quite honest. It makes the area not only practical but also cozy, like a little retreat. Now, I had someone ask me, what is a brad nail? And for those of you that aren't familiar, a brad nail is just a thin, small diameter nail with a small head, or honestly almost no head. It's typically used for more delicate trim work and finishing, where you want minimal visibility and risk of splitting the wood. A regular nail is just a lot thicker, larger, and designed for more structural or general purpose type use, providing more holding power, whereas in my case, I just don't need it. I'm just tacking these up there more just to keep them up. They won't have any stress on them, if you will.
Just look at some of that aging, the patinaing, the depth that's naturally worn off, these highlights on the top. That is beautiful. 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 Ron thinks I'm playing airsoft. He's getting all jazzed and amped. Because he's always on the airsoft field traditionally with us until he broke his, or until he hurt his leg.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This dog is pure beast mode, like John Wick's sidekick, probably trained by Chuck Norris himself. But let me remind you, once we get home, yeah, this is also Braun. Recently, due to Braun's right hip injury, he hasn't been able to join me for airsoft, so I have had to leave him behind. And let me tell you, when he gives me that look as I close the door, rather than letting him hop up and go into the truck with me, well, it absolutely breaks my heart. Does anyone else have a pet that's become such a part of their family that you sometimes wonder how you'll manage when they're not here with us? It's tough to even think about, but moments like these make you really appreciate the time you do have with them.
All right, you guys, so at this point, I feel like I'm in really good shape to do a couple things. One, for me, I needed to get to this point before I can really kind of figure out what I want to do next. So obviously the awning is going to go right up here, but I wanted to sit with it like it is now, right? I've got the rustic board up there. I'm loving that. I think that looks phenomenal. I think it's going to look good with the corrugated tin, right? So you'll have the old rustic wood with corrugated tin in between to kind of separate it, so it doesn't feel like it's just all dominated by the old rustic wood. Also, you can see how close that track is for the garage door to that. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the general store / general's workshop / sign there, just because I think that's going to interrupt it. And I don't think that will work. So I think the awning will be there. And again, I still have to decide what I want to do with these. Do I want to paint this to do like the gray, or would I want to do it more of like a mahogany kind of staining like I did this right here? And so still got some things to go. Obviously, it's made my man cave / viewing TV area much darker. So I'll be adding lighting to that. But hopefully on the next video, we're going to be doing the awning. So that'll be coming out here in the next couple of weeks. And for those of you that didn't watch the first build where we actually did all the framing, go ahead and check out this video up here. That'll be queued for you. And then until next time, guys, we'll see you later. Have a great day.